From the cold docks of the Hudson River to the sad, warm sands of Iwo Jima to the cavernous courtrooms of New York City, he fought for the right to work, the right to be free, the right to justice, and he won. His life is the stuff of not one, but maybe 6 Hollywood movies. Police officer, Marine, activist for longshoremen, now known as one of the best lawyers in America. He was born Peter James Johnson on the 3rd floor of a cold water tenement on Morton Street, just steps away from the West Side waterfront. His father, James, known as Jasper, was a hard-working longshoreman and union delegate. His mother, Mary, once a seamstress, the mother of 6. Because of bad lungs, they wondered whether Peter would live to be 10. His greatest pleasure was always walking the streets of Greenwich Village with his father, who, though not well educated, was a faithful friend to fellow dock workers who were kept down by low wages, the unpredictability of the shape-up, and the lack of access to medical care. Graduating from St. Joseph's School, already motivated by the life of trial lawyer Clarence Darrow and by the decent courage of his own father, Peter won a scholarship to LaSalle Academy, where his analytical and debate skills grew under the tutelage of brother Michael Bain. At LaSalle, Peter Johnson broke academic records and outgrew his asthma to become a pretty good basketball player. It was the Depression, and for so many, hope was in short supply. But it seemed that opportunity was about to knock. Pete was accepted to the Naval Academy at Annapolis on the recommendation of the local congressman. Then, in 1939, a week before graduation, he came home to Morton Street to find that a heart attack had taken his father. Pete collected his father's paycheck to bury his father, and Mary Johnson wondered how she would care for her children, the youngest, who was 6. He quietly graduated high school, and the very next day took his father's place, loading on a West Side pier by day, by night attending St. John's University, and tending to his siblings, Eileen, Bernice, Ori, Jerry, and Joe. At the urging of a relative, he left the docks to become a New York City patrolman in 1941, and was assigned to the 11th Precinct on the Lower East Side. He often saw that his dark uniform and police hat frightened the German Jewish immigrants who had fled Nazi oppression. As World War II began, he earned the trust of Orchard Street merchants and the rabbi to whom he became a friend. As a police officer, he was exempt from the draft, but after seeking his mother's permission, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 1943, completed basic training at Parris Island, became an expert marksman, and was named a drill instructor. In 1944, he received orders to take his last platoon of recruits halfway around the world, 660 miles from Tokyo, on a small volcanic island called Iwo Jima. During one of the most horrific battles of the Pacific War, most of his platoon never returned home. He was gravely wounded, then saved from certain death by a fellow Marine, and spent the next year in Navy hospitals as surgeons saved his right arm from amputation. As his therapy progressed, he longed to return to Morton Street, where his mother, Mary, had taken an even greater interest in helping raise the Murphy children. 4 boys, Patrick, Billy, Stevie, and Mikey, who had tragically lost their parents and would become his young brothers forever. He returned to the police department after proving his ability to hit a target with his left hand. Under the GI Bill, he completed college at night and began law school at St. John's, where he often provoked his professors with his dramatic argument and desire to win. After passing the bar, his mother helped him scrape together a rent deposit, and a law dictionary, and he opened a one-room office at 50 Broad Street in the shadows of the stock exchange. As a young lawyer, he represented many of the same poor longshoremen and their families his father often counseled. Night after night, he heard the same tales of exploitation, kicking back wages in order to get work, gangster domination of the docks, and the ILA. A delegation gathered outside the courthouse